Hi, everybody. You're watching the Change Nerd channel. I'm Jason. This video is part two of my conversation with Holly Piturro about the changes that occur with grief and loss. We got feedback from someone after the first video that they thought about the changes they were causing for everybody else when they didn't embrace some of the changes they needed to do to prepare. That's our point that we're hoping that you'll get out of these videos is thinking through how you can get ready for grief and loss, maybe how you can help others get through grief and loss, and as we talk about in this video, the importance of legacy. Enjoy. I have a coworker who her father-in-law passed away unexpectedly, and because it was unexpected, didn't have any paperwork, no will, no powers of attorney, no
Mhm.
nothing. So there's been a giant process that they've gone through. What recommendations or what suggestions would you have for people who are running into that resistance with their loved ones to get the legal affairs in order? I get that people don't want to talk about it. It's uncomfortable. We just went through and put all of our stuff in a trust because of everything that we'd gone through with my parents. And so we're like, okay, great. Let's take these learning lessons and let's put all these into a document that makes it easier for other people down the road. But for people that don't want to talk about it, what would be some of your suggestions that could help them maybe break through that ice?
I think, mine would be start with the tactical first. That might be like you talk about, that might be a little bit easier of a place to go, get with an attorney, or I know there's online places where you can, you know, establish a will or at least start thinking about it. Maybe the tactical is a good entry point. Again, it's so individual. And then maybe, starting to just do some self reflection and even journaling about, okay, I'm seeing this. I've now seen this happen with somebody I love, and it's happening with somebody I love. What are my fears here? What exactly am I afraid of? What stories am I telling myself about death? What are some things that would make me feel more prepared? And I think that would be really individual. And you can't prepare, like as you said, it could happen. It could happen to me right now,
Mhm.
but to at least make peace. That's a thing that came out in the book I talked about, a lot of making people having some regrets about how they treat people and that old stereotype, people remember how you make them feel versus what you say, and people having regrets about that. And so as you have your interactions every day, whether it's at work or personally, think about how do you want your lasting impression to be. Sometimes people talk about legacies. I think that's a pretty big word. But what do you want your time on this earth to people to remember about you, as long as they're around to remember you? And again, if you're afraid of that, start slow. Start with a topic that, you know, is a little safer. What am I proud of that I have done in life? What are some things I'd like to do differently in my next years? I had a lot of regrets at the beginning with my mother. And she, like, as I mentioned, she had passed really suddenly in my home helping me make dinner, and she had heart failure. And I had known that she had had some heart issues. And so, but I thought I made the assumption, and this kind of ties in the don't wait, that I'm like, oh, she's only 63. I've probably got good 10 years left with her. Like based on what, I'm not sure, but that's the story I would tell myself. And I had some regrets. Like I went to the place of like every time I was ever lost my patience with her. And I felt, oh, have I not been a good daughter? She was such a wonderful, kind human being. Did I not treat her the way she needed to be treated? And then, ironically going through her things, I've been fortunate to be able to travel a lot. I traveled a lot in college and for work. And I had sent her postcards. She wasn't a woman who was well traveled. We grew up very kind of blue collar in Ohio. It wasn't part of our world to travel internationally when I was young. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that. And I had sent her all these postcards and I read them and I was like, I actually was really sweet to her. I actually did do kind things. And so to kind of bring it back to your question of can you do now you're afraid of, I think that would be a good starting point. It's so easy. And we see it in the change world all the time and all the projects that we work on in the business world. You get very caught up to get on that hamster wheel to like so focus on the what that we don't slow down enough to go, whoa, hold on. This is my life here. What do I want this to be? And I think that is important.
I don't know if you watch the. I watch it a lot like this so that I can snap fingers shut if need be when something might come up. So, in one of the episodes, he shares because there's a family, there was a saying called Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian healing practice. And they say when people are getting ready to depart, you say, I love you, Thank you. I forgive you.
Mhm.
Please forgive me. And I
I
love
love it.
that because it resonated with me when I watched that because I felt like I had done that with my parents. I felt like I had had a conversation similar to that with my mom right before. And kind of to your point, when they do pass, you do start going through all the things. Did I say and do the right things right before they left? Did I leave them with good memories? Do I have good memories? Was I nice? Was I sharp? I remember a couple of times I did get after my mom and dad for just maybe things years ago, but those emotions all come flooding back. And so when he said that in that episode, I'm like, no, I kind of feel like that actually happened. I feel like that whole thing had already happened. I had already basically said, I love you, thank you, I forgive you, please forgive me. And maybe not those words, but in a conversation, especially with my mom right before she passed. And I think, again, that's why I had that emotional resilience of it is sad, but it is not crushing. The grief was not crushing.
And Jason, how do you feel about now? And I know it's still pretty recent, but do you feel like they're still with you, like that they're part of you?
Absolutely. So I love that question because well, there'll be different things that I do in a day, maybe at work or interacting with other people or a thought process that I'll have. And I'll remember that I probably learned that from my mom or my dad. We were talking the other day about doing the right thing, and my parents were big on ethics and integrity. And so
Mm.
I'm processing because I'm the executor of the will. And so as I'm working through all of the paperwork and getting everything done, I'm documenting every penny, where it goes, what it does, because to honor my mom and dad's integrity, I'm going to execute the will with integrity. I will make sure that everything is
Mm.
paid correctly. I will make sure it's distributed the ways they've asked. All of these different things are happening. So yeah, not just the pictures as I see of them on the wall because they're downstairs as I come down the stairs every day. There's pictures of mom and pictures of dad, so I get to have a moment with them. But I'll be driving the car and be thinking of something, and I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I do that. Why am I taking food to someone who's sick? Because that's something that my mom and dad would do, and that's something that I carry, that legacy I carry, and I'm happy I get to honor them, and I'm happy that I'm cognizant of when I honor them because things are flying so fast and furious. I could very easily just forget that I'm just doing it because it's muscle memory or whatever. But if I really think about it, I'm doing it because that's a piece of me that I've carried for 50 plus years of my life as honoring them and things that we just do it. We just do it naturally. They're like, somebody's moving. Okay, great. Let's all show up and help them move. We just we just do it. It's part of who we are.
Yeah, I love that. I feel the same way. I see it, especially as I get older, certain
Yeah.
qualities that I have. Some of the qualities that even I said, Mom, you need to be more this way or that, they're coming out in me. And there's some good ones. Like she was very
Yeah.
empathetic. She was a nurse, a caregiver, as I mentioned, really kind. And I feel like as I'm getting older, that's, my focus is getting more and more that way. Not that I was unkind before, but I think to your point, I was so focused on like getting it done, especially, a 30-year career in corporate America, executing, solving problems, and I find myself just doing it in a different way now. I think another thing that we like to do in my in-laws, even though I'm no longer married to my ex-husband, I'm still very close with his family and he's been really wonderful about it. And it's a big, loving, gregarious Italian family. And I knew his parents really well before they passed. I was actually in the room with them when his mother passed
Mm.
26 years ago now. And that was kind of like, I see it was a whole different experience too. But we joke about them a lot. They had so many like sayings that they would say or phrases they would use. And we talk about them a lot. I talk about my mom a lot. And when things remind me of her, or somebody says something like, oh, my mom used to say that, or, she liked that singer. She liked Barry Manilow, and that feels really fun to do.
Yes, and it's fun to remember. I'm really grateful. I mean, we share a lot of the same belief systems about people and hearts and minds when it comes to change and things like that. And I think, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but I think it's okay to still grieve and be sad. I think there's
Well,
days
yeah.
where sometimes you're just driving the car and there's tears. And I think that's a healthy thing. I think that's okay. I think to me, that says that I have love for them and there was a good relationship and we were in a good place when that happened. And so instead of it being, I would dread people being happy that I was gone. And not, maybe that's so crass, but I wouldn't want to live a life where people are like, they don't really notice that there's still tears, that there's still grief, that we were touched and we had good relationships. And so I think it's okay to periodically dip through that change valley yet again and say, gosh, you know what, today is a hard day, or maybe it's a hard week, or there's just certain things that are going to always remind us of who they were and who they are and how much they mean to us. And I've talked to some people and they say, "Oh yeah, I don't think I ever get sad anymore." And I don't think I'll never not get sad. I feel like I'm going to always have sad moments for the rest of my life just because people mean things to us and people have connections that are so important, and whether it be parents or friends or other people that have passed, there's emotional resilience you have to build, and I think we build it over time, and I think it just gets, I don't know that it gets easier, but it certainly might be more, maybe a little more comfortable.
Yeah, I would say just from my experience, since there's been time, it's less intense. It's not like the everyday, all day, just heartbreak, honestly. But it's still, I've had my, I wish I had my mom here moments for sure. And there's this concept of, I don't know if you've experienced this yet or others, but where I had, this just isn't fair. She was only
Yeah.
63. She had just retired the year before. She doesn't get to see these beautiful grandchildren who she just adored. She was so excited to be a grandmother, and I had children at 30 and 36. So, I remember when I told her I was pregnant with my daughter, she said, finally, like she was just like blissful. And that's the part where I'm like, just life isn't fair sometimes. She really deserved to watch them grow and be this amazing grandmother that I know she would have been. And same with all of my kids don't have any of their grandparents. And, I see them, families with their grandparents with at their soccer games or their baseball games. And I wonder, do they realize how fortunate they are? It's really beautiful to be able to have that.
Yeah. I sometimes think we don't take a moment to reflect on how grateful we are that we get those people in our lives, that there's days where there's just so many things going on. And I often wonder if the volume and pace of life also helps affect people's ability to grieve and helps people's ability to talk through these kinds of things and share their feelings and share their thoughts. Because I know I've had great friends, and I'm grateful for this conversation today and other great people to talk about it, because I feel like you need to. I don't think you should ever bottle it all up inside and just experience it by yourself. You should share your thoughts and share, like I said, we'll put the book down in the notes so that people can go back and research that too, and think about all the different things about it, and be okay with talking about an uncomfortable topic and helping things move forward.
Sorry, just one last
Yeah.
point. Maybe that small step that people start with, knowing it's okay to be sad. I feel like our society doesn't allow a lot of space for like, I have it not, we have to have it all together. We have it buttoned up. You move on. And that's not really being true to yourself or in service to yourself. Like maybe that's a starting point. It's just to start being comfortable with saying that I have uncomfortable emotions. Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart, her book about emotions is like mind blowing. Get clear
Mhm.
about what you're feeling, write it down, and it'll move through eventually.
Yeah. Absolutely. There is no shame in it. There's no shame in raising your hand and asking for help. There's no shame in talking with people through it. There's no shame with using an employee assistance program or a local therapist or someone to help you process, because we're all different. We all process differently. We have an upcoming series about disc and change. That's going to be a whole video series, because each of the styles deal with change and, for that matter, grief differently. And so we can't expect our personal style to be the way everybody else deals with it, or expect everybody else to move through it in the same time frame that we did. It's unique and it's individual, and it's okay. To your point, it really is. How can people get a hold of you? If people want to connect with Holly Piturro, how can they do that?
I would say look me up on LinkedIn. I'm a Holly Betts Piturro, so Bettspituro, and message me there.
Fantastic.
I would love to hear from people. I love this topic. It's something as I continue to, go further in my career. There's some certifications through coaching people through grief and things like that that I'll probably continue to do. So thanks for having me to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for you being on here today and for sharing your thoughts and for sharing about life in general. I've always appreciated our philosophy. We have very similar belief systems, and it's terrific to talk about a topic that is probably not comfortable. And I think today we've been able to give some tips and tools to people who might be in the same boat, or recently in the same boat, or know that this is coming. And I think they'll get some really good nuggets out of it. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you soon. I hope you found some value in the video series. It is not easy to talk about grief and loss and the changes that come with it. Hopefully, we've given you some tips, tools, and tactics to think about so that that journey can be easier. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.